Thank you for that. Really appreciate that. You know, I'm Ted Santos, and I'm always here to speak to you about these counterintuitive, controversial, provocative topics. Some make you love me, some make you think, and some make you hate me. There's a quote: if you make people think they are thinking, they'll love you. If you make people really think, they will hate you. So, for some of you, be prepared to hate me for this one. I'm going to get into this, and you see what we're talking about. Reasons you won't find love. We're going to go down a list of the top 10 reasons you will never find love. And I use the word never. That's a strong word to use. Most people never find love, even though they think they have it. And if you doubt me, look at the divorce rate. If so many people were in love, how can most marriages end up in divorce? That's not even counting relationships, cohabitation that just fall apart. You know, in the United States at least, Hollywood and romance novels have done a great job of shaping the ideals of love. The eager, handsome man who jumps through hoops just to win over the passionate woman who's the love of his life. In the movies, they show fireworks and they play music. And all of that intensifies the feelings for the love scene. And they write the most poetic lines for the actors to say. And when people attempt to apply those same scenes to real life, there's always something missing. Whether it's the music, the fireworks, the passion, the poetic lines are missing, it appears people are unfulfilled in relationships. And what Hollywood has done is create an environment where people are constantly disappointed in their romantic life because it just never measures up to the Hollywood love story. In the movies, the story is always the same. Boy chases girl and he gets her. Boy loses girl and he feels bad. Boy gets girl back. All of this happens in less than 2 hours. And therefore, we never actually get to see what it really takes to create a great relationship. We don't even get to understand love. We hear sound bites and then we're amazed by well choreographed scenes, and then we attempt to mimic it. At the very best, we expect it to magically happen in the same way it magically happened in the movies. When you clearly understand this, it becomes apparent that very few people fully comprehend the responsibilities required to have a great, stable, intimate relationship. We instead seek to experience the same dopamine rush, like, the junkie. Give me a vein. It's the same dopamine rush we want to experience in real life that we felt watching the movie. With that said, let's talk about the top 10 reasons people will not find love. Some of you will hate me for the list that I'm actually going to present. And why? Because there are many items on the list that have come to be known as normal. Yet, very few people have come to the realization that it does not work. For the lucky ones, you don't do any of these things I'm going to list. For the rest, you may hear one or two that you do. And for others, well, you may see you do them all. So I'm going to start all the way at the bottom of the list with number 10. And number 10 will not surprise you based on what I just said. Number 10 is people believe love is from the movies. It's just like the movies and books. In the movies, relationships are filled with excitement that magically happens in less than 2 hours. As we are watching, many biochemicals are secreting in our bodies. Those biochemical secretions make us feel good. When we enter a relationship, we attempt to mimic the Hollywood love stories. We are disappointed when our love interest does not do or say the things that we saw in the movies. Ultimately, it is the dopamine rush we're chasing. In a funny way, we're looking for someone who will supply us with stimulus that makes our bodies secrete dopamine. Does that make that person a drug dealer? When they stop doing the things that make us feel excited, well, we claim the love is gone. Then we're off to find the next dopamine dealer. Number 9, people go into relationships with their hands out. You see, what's in my hand? This is how people go. They go in a relationship with their hands out and nothing in them. This can happen if you have a one size fits all approach to relationships. Or it can happen if you believe your presence, I'm here, I am here. Your presence is all you need to supply your love interest. That's all you have to give them. It's like, I'm here. That should be enough for you. You treat them as though they should be lucky to have you. As a result, you believe they owe you. You will expect them to provide, and be happy just to look at you. Periodically, they get to touch you and kiss you. And if they're lucky, they get to have sex with you. You've heard it. Did you get lucky last night? That makes you the prize who should be adored. And when they attempt to get more from you, you know what you do? You will remind them that they are just lucky to have you. Number 8, people go into relationships believing it's hard work. This one may be difficult for many of you. All of our lives, we hear relationships take hard work. Relationships, it's hard work, man. As a rule, if you're good at something, as a rule, if you're not good at something, it's difficult. Except if you're well trained, it can be effortless. At the same time, if you presuppose something is difficult, there's a really good chance you're going to find an enormous amount of evidence to support your belief system. So you believe, you presuppose, you already know, man, this is going to be hard. This is going to be difficult. And what are you going to find? You're going to find that it's hard and difficult. No surprise there, Watson. Number 7, people lack relationship skills. So this kind of builds on top of the last one, number 8. For some reason, everyone understands the importance of having competent people in the workplace. Incompetent people may provide poor service to your customers. In an enterprise with incompetent people, you'll eventually go out of business. The same happens in a romantic relationship. There needs to be competency to understand your customer or your spouse's needs. In a corporation, customers go to competitors if you don't serve their needs satisfactorily. The same happens with your significant other. Do you know how to speak to them? Do you treat them with care? Is your communication open and transparent? Do you have integrity? Do you allocate time to get to know them well? Do you listen to them? Do you do things to make them feel appreciated, right? All of these are the kinds of things you know to do in a corporation. You do it with your colleagues, you do it for the boss, you do it for your customers especially. Many people put more effort into speaking with clients or work colleagues than they do their significant other. So these are just some of the common sense skills that you and competencies you have at work. What do we have the same and understand the kinds of skills and competencies required to make a good relationship work? And if you don't have them, well, there's a good chance you won't find love. Number 6, this may be tough for some of you also. Number 6, people play games. Yes, on the surface, playing games may appear to be harmless fun. At the same time, it can establish a precedent. How you start things is usually how things remain. Said another way, what it took to get them is what it takes to keep them. What people need to really understand is in games, someone wins, someone loses. How can that be healthy? Just tell me how that can be healthy for a relationship. Cat and mouse, for example, that's where the man chases the woman. The woman feels good and she feels really good and important when you're chasing her. It gives her what I said about Hollywood movies, it gives her a dopamine rush. The man also receives a dopamine rush because he believes he will be rewarded when he catches her. The reward is sex. This can turn into a breakup makeup relationship. You see, they're only going to feel good about one another when the cat and mouse game is played. The other part of the cat and mouse game is the cat catches the mouse. It will play with the mouse until it sees another mouse. And basically, it will play with the mouse. Usually, the cat hurts the mouse, and the mouse can't even move anymore. It's damaged. And then, as soon as the cat sees another mouse running off, it's going to off to chase, and it leaves the damaged one just laying there, lifeless. That's the cat and mouse game. In addition, when all the chasing is happening, no one is providing evidence they actually have something of value to bring in the other's life. Besides, games always allow people to have sort of this cryptic communication, and that can be a pathway to a whole bunch of other problems. So if you're playing games, don't be surprised when you can't find love. Some of you think you just have to play a better game. Number 5, we're now off to number 5. We're about halfway there now. Number 5 is people have nothing to offer beyond sex and money. So while sex and money are important in relationships, they are not enough to sustain a long-term commitment. Furthermore, many people have an exaggerated sense of their sexual abilities. Each person is unique. You cannot believe what is pleasing to one is pleasing to everyone. As for money, this conversation about money needs to be discussed up front. What lifestyle does your significant other desire? As a man, will you be able to provide that lifestyle? Or do you believe that lifestyle is extravagant and unnecessary? However, if you do provide all the money your spouse desires, what is left after she goes shopping? How will you make her feel or make her a better person? Do you know how to do that? How will you enrich her life or his life without money? And if sex is the only way to avoid arguing between the two of you, then you may have a problem with you may just be incompatible because one or both of you may be frustrated and not fulfilled. That gets us to number 4. And you'll see these are sort of building blocks on top of one another. Number 4 is people do not know who's compatible with them. You see, most people confuse compatibility with having things in common. Things in common can change over time. Those things could relate to your favorite color, musical preferences, recreational activities, favorite places to party, and so forth. The list goes on of what you have in common. When it comes to compatibility, those things are less likely to change over time. You see, those are what you would call family values that affect your ability to manage money. So how do you manage money? Are you compatible with that? Your mental and physical health. Are you compatible in how you see mental and physical health? Integrity. Are you compatible there? Communication. How do you want to educate and discipline your children? Sex. Are you intellectually compatible? And there's a list of other things that go with compatibility, and these things don't change. How do you even educate yourself? So, to understand compatibility, it is absolutely essential you do an inventory of self. You see, that way you understand what you offer another person. Then think who would find those things desirable. In all likelihood, it will be someone who has the same or similar family values as you. That gets us to number three. We're winding down here. Number three, people do not know how to resolve conflict. That's called conflict resolution skills. You see, this is a critical life skill for business and personal life. In intimate relationships, there's always going to be some misunderstanding. Those misunderstandings can turn into huge unnecessary arguments. I'm willing to say this is where people need to understand the secret to conflict resolution. To resolve the conflict, it almost never has anything to do with the other person or the situation. It's it has to do with the internal conflict you never resolve. See, once you're triggered by an internal conflict, it becomes difficult to listen to the other person. Can't even hear them. When you can distinguish your own internal conflict, it's going to be a lot easier to listen to the other person, to understand what is being communicated. And that will allow you to ask important questions, to establish clarity, instead of drawing conclusions from your interpretation or from your triggers. We're down to number two. The number two reason, it kind of relates to number three, people do not listen. I mean, in some ways, we're almost trained to not listen. Most people are listening to respond. Everyone understands that. Or they're listening to their own interpretation of what you're saying. Sometimes your interpretation ends up being this entire story, a novel you write in your head. In other words, they are only interested in what they believe you are saying. Then they draw conclusions based on their interpretation, and that gets messy. Many marriages have gone to court because simply because of a misunderstanding. In reality, I'm going to say people actually need to be trained to listen. Furthermore, now listen to this one. This one may be a big pill for many of you to swallow. People are only listening to what they agree with and what they disagree with. Yeah. See, agreement and disagreement would be great if we took them out of our vocabulary, just trash them because you're not even listening. You're listening. Do I agree with that? Do I disagree? And if they agree, they like you. And they may even want to add to what you're saying. And see, that too can cause them to not listening because they're so excited. Yeah, I agree. And they're just trying to figure out and they want to butt in and cut you off and tell you why they agree. They're not even listening. If they disagree, they are thinking of all the reasons they disagree with you. As a result, they're not listening to you, they are listening to themselves and how they're going to invalidate everything you just stated. See, unless you know everything, it's very difficult to disagree with anything someone says. See, they may know things you've never learned. And history has proven that. I've done videos about that. History has proven over and over again that even the experts disagree with one person, only to find out the one person was on the best path and he saw something the rest of them couldn't see. So that gets us to the number one reason you will never find love. Some of you may have heard me say this. I recently did an interview with a psychologist on YouTube. He's also a couples therapist. And it was very interesting when I laid this out. We did an entire video around the number one reason people will never find love. And he was explaining how in his training, they are taught many things about what people should do and what they shouldn't do when it comes to relationships. But he said it was never clearly articulated in their training the way I have stated it here. So that's a couples therapist, a guy with years of training and actually 35 years of marriage. That video should be coming up soon. So the number one reason you will never find love is people. Now you've got to listen to this. This is a bigger pill to swallow. People do not know how to create great relationships. But hear me out. You see, what people believe is love creates great relationships. That's what they believe. I just blew up the whole thing. Blow it up. We're blowing up the whole idea that love creates great relationships. They just don't. I know that's what we've been taught. I understand it's part of culture. You can go to any country. Most countries, that's what you will hear. And see, because people have been made to believe love is something that magically happens, like in Hollywood movies, they never actually bother to develop relationship skills because love, it's effortless. It just happens. It's organic. No matter what you do in life, it's important to be competent at it. And we've been taught that all you need is love, movies, music, um, education system, just it's pop culture. All you need is love. Love conquers all. Hey, man, how could you do that to her? You must not love her. Or if she really loves you, what's the favorite? If you really loved me, you wouldn't ask me to sign a prenuptial agreement, right? All we need is love and it will conquer all. You see, that causes people to believe if they find true love, the relationship will take care of itself. Love does not create a great relationship. It just doesn't. Love is a byproduct of a great relationship. Now, hear this. This is going to be really tough for some of you. If you do not have the skills to create a great relationship, you do not deserve love. See, you hear people, everyone deserves love. I deserve to be loved. Well, what if you're lousy at creating relationships? Why should someone love you if you don't even know what you're doing? You're horrible. You create a disaster. You're a disaster looking for a reason to happen. In the same way, think about this. If you do not have the education and experience in finance and accounting, you do not deserve an executive position that requires that expertise, that experience, the education. You see, everyone can understand that. That's easy to understand. See, what people call love is a series of biochemical secretions like dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins. And when I'm interviewed by this psychologist, we actually get into that quite a bit. You see, those biochemical secretions make us feel good. People mistake those good feelings for love. It's not. It's nature's way of ensuring humans have sex so they perpetuate the species. Other animals secrete the same for the same exact reason. So all these animals are out here secreting dopamine so that they have success and have little baby. We have baby humans and baby horses and whatever else. Lions, cubs. So the belief that all you need is love is just an absolute complete myth. If that's all you have, you don't have love. You have biochemical secretions that make you feel good and you think that's going to take care of the relationship. It's not. Be prepared for a crash and burn. And that is why so many relationships fall apart. Divorce. You're marrying for love. How could I marry you if I don't love you? Well, you see, if you have compatibility, which that's self-inventory, and you know how to create two people come together to create a great relationship, you're going to be good at coming together and knowing that the two of you are compatible. You're going to have an affinity for that person. And that affinity is going to grow into love. And you'll now have this base, this foundation of knowing how to create a great relationship together. And you'll have love on top of that. That has sustainability. As you can see, there are many things that can make relationships fall apart. I just gave you a list of 10. Some of those things are done because we believe everyone else is doing it. Therefore, it's just normal. We never bother to learn how to create a great relationship. There's a saying. You see, we do these things that don't work. So there's a saying that doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is insanity. That's what it looks like in the relationship world. Didn't work with this guy, so I'll try the same thing with this one. Well, it seems much of the US has gone insane when it comes to relationships. Now, I'm going to give you one bonus reason why people won't find love. And that's third party interference. That means you allow someone else to tell you how to treat your significant other. You allow someone else to tell you who they are. That person may be envious of how great your relationship is. They may be watching you actually put together. Perhaps you're lucky you met someone who has the skills and you're open minded enough, and they are helping you develop those skills and you're working together. And that person who's watching could be, hell, it could be your parent, it could be siblings, a so called best friend, cousin, aunt, and they're giving you advice on how to sabotage. So many relationships fall apart. The wife who has the bitter, lonely friend who destroys her marriage. So that's the bonus. Third party interference. Look out for that. And keep this list of 10. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. What do you think? Did I miss one? Those are the top 10 I said. Or do you, in your mind, think I did a horrible job of presenting real things that destroy relationships and why people won't find love? I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. So, like my video, share it. If you're not subscribed to my channel, subscribe it. I thank you very much for watching me. This went on a lot longer than I anticipated, but thanks for listening. Take care. Goodbye.